West Salem versus South Salem, two of the most sought after neighborhoods in Salem, Oregon. But which one is right for you? Now, there are some similarities between the two, but they offer very different lifestyles, and choosing the wrong one could lead to frustration down the road. So in this video, I'm going to break down the differences, the main differences, and some of the similarities between these two neighborhoods so you can make a more informed decision on which neighborhood is best for you and your family. Now, the first major difference we're going to be talking about is the location and the commute. And there is some point of contention with this, especially with the locals. We're going to start off with West Salem. Now, it is unique because it is west of the Willamette River. It is the only portion of Salem that is on this side of the river. And it is in a different county. It is in Polk County. Being on the west side of the river means that you've got to cross the bridge. And this is a point of contention for a lot of people because they think there is a lot of traffic on it. But when you're living in West Salem, you're about 7 to 10 minutes away from the downtown area and about 20 to 25 minutes from any of your big box shopping or the I-5 freeway or the local airport that we have in here in Salem. You're about 20 to 25 minutes from a lot of your entertainment outside of West Salem. Now, for people that are looking for a little bit more seclusion, these commute times don't necessarily bother them. And because of that separation away from the rest of the city, you may feel slightly removed from the rest of Salem, kind of creating more of a suburban, peaceful atmosphere. Now, in regards to the location, I should speak a little bit about the geography because there is a difference between the two, whereas most of West Salem is built on a hillside. Now, there are some flat portions in the West Salem area that are closer to the bridge and closer to the 22 highway. However, most of it is built on hillside. Now, the benefits of living on hillside is that you have some beautiful views of the Willamette River, the Cascade Mountains, and the downtown lights. So when you're driving through the neighborhoods, you're constantly seeing these amazing views and there's not much obstruction. So it feels like you can breathe a little bit. When you can see that far out as you're driving, or you maybe having some great views from your homes, you feel a little less congested or a little less hustle from the city itself. Now, I say hustle loosely because we are talking about a smaller city, but nonetheless, you feel like you can breathe just a little bit easier when you're on these types of properties. Now, the potential challenges with living on hillside is one, if you have a family and your kids like to play outside in the front, well, it's a little bit more challenging to ride their bikes or maybe play some ball because you are dealing with that hillside. And the second challenge is during the winters, we can get some snow and some ice storms here. So you have these really slanted driveways in some areas, making it harder to get out of your homes. But the good news is that the ice and snow really only last a few days throughout the winter, and that's it. So it doesn't really affect you throughout the year or even throughout most of the winter. Now let's talk a little bit about the commute. As I mentioned, about 7 to 10 minutes from downtown, 20 to 25 minutes from everything else. Where this can get a little bit interesting is sometimes on Wallace Road or getting over the bridge, there can be some traffic. And this is what people get a little disillusioned by living on the west side because they're concerned about that portion. Now, my family and I moved from a large city, so when we talk about traffic, we have a different perspective on it. I don't feel that the traffic coming out of West Salem or into West Salem is all that bad. And when there is some backup during the rush hour, possibly add about another 5 to 10 minutes to your commute. Now, where it gets bad is if one of the lanes is shut down on the bridge or the bridge is shut down entirely, you can feel really isolated in that you can't really get to the rest of Salem. Now, there are two other ways to get across the river, but they're both about 20 minutes from West Salem, so you really have to go out of your way, and it's not the most ideal solution to get out of West Salem. Wallace Road can back up a bit, but there are workarounds and ways to get around that during that rush hour time. Now let's talk about South Salem. Now, South Salem, there is actually a specific neighborhood called South Salem, but when people in Salem talk about South Salem, they're talking about the general area that's going to be south of the downtown area. So depending on where you live in the southern section of Salem will kind of depend on your commute to work, if you do commute to work, or getting into downtown area. The reason I mentioned downtown so much is because that is the main focal point of our entertainment here in Salem. So when you're living in South Salem, you could live anywhere between 5 minutes and 15 minutes away from the downtown area. The difference in the commute is that it feels like it's more of a straighter shot when you're living in the South Salem area. And the main roads you're going to be traveling in South Salem are going to be Commercial Street and Liberty Street. These are two of the biggest north-south streets in all of Salem, and they run all through South Salem and they connect you to the downtown area. If you're in the more southern portions of South Salem, you also may be using Kubler to go east and west to get to those streets of Commercial and Liberty. Now, the terrain of South Salem, in some ways there are some similarities to West Salem where there are some hilly portions in the South Salem area. But there are a vast amount of flatter areas of South Salem, making it easier to drive, making it easier to walk. And if you have family with young kids that like to be outside, play a little ball outside, run around, be on their bikes and scooters, it makes it easier for them to just roam free as kids in the neighborhood. And when you're living in the South Salem area, you are a lot closer to the I-5 freeway. So if you do use that to commute into Portland or Eugene or wherever else that you need to commute for work or just pleasure and travel, just know that you are closer to that freeway system. So in comparing the two as far as location and commute goes, it really depends on your personal lifestyle and how close you want to be to the downtown area, how important it is to get to the I-5 freeway. When you're in the West Salem area, you feel a little bit more secluded, a little bit more suburban, a little bit more detached from the rest of the city. And when you're in the South Salem area, you feel a little bit more connected and a little bit more convenient to many of the amenities in Salem. Now, before I move on to the next topic, I wanted to let you know that my family and I made the move and relocated to the Salem area, and we chose one of these two neighborhoods that I will reveal at the end. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you may already know, but if you're new to the channel and this is your first video, well, this may be a nice surprise for you. I also wanted to remind you that I am a local real estate agent right here in Salem, Oregon with the real estate dads at eXp Realty. My team and I love helping people move and relocate to the city of Salem. So if you're thinking about doing that, make sure you hit us up at the contact information popping up or in the description below. Also, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button so this can get to more people like yourselves thinking about moving to Salem, Oregon. Also, comment below if you are considering choosing between West Salem and South Salem. I'd like to hear your questions and your comments as well. Now let's talk about the next major difference between West Salem and South Salem, and that is the housing market and the type of homes you can expect to find and buy in each of these neighborhoods. Now, West Salem is dominated by newer homes, many of which have been built between 1990s and the 2000s, and there is still some brand new construction going on currently as this video is being recorded. In West Salem, you can expect to find larger lots, a little bit more modern designs that make it a little bit more appealing for families looking for space. What you will also find in West Salem are a lot more master planned communities with HOAs. This helps kind of ensure that the neighborhoods are kept up a little bit more, but it does come with some fees that you will have to pay monthly. And as I mentioned before, when we talked about location, many of the homes are built on the hillside, so they come with some pretty spectacular views of the Cascade Mountains, of the city lights, of the Willamette River, and partly of some of the wine country that we have here that's adjacent to the West Salem area. And even if your homes don't necessarily have those views, when you're commuting throughout the neighborhood and getting in over onto Wallace, which is one of your main streets, or Edgewater, another major street, eventually connecting to the bridge, that whole commute into the downtown Salem area and the rest of Salem, you're going to have some pretty amazing views. Now, you may be thinking views are not that big of a deal, but when you're driving through or just taking a nice stroll or a walk or a bike ride, it just gives you a sense of fresh air, a sense of breathing, a sense of just relaxation. So it does add an element to a lifestyle in West Salem. Now let's talk about pricing. When we talk about pricing in West Salem, I'd say the median home price in the West Salem area is about $475,000, but you can definitely find homes on up to $1 million if you're finding homes that have a little bit more land and a little bit larger. These homes tend to be a little bit further out into the West Salem area, so a little bit more west. So generally speaking, the further west and the further north you go, the more expensive your homes are going to be. If you're living in the more flatter portions of the West Salem area, which again puts you closer to the bridge, you can expect lower prices, but you're also going to find smaller homes. However, it is more convenient to the amenities in West Salem. Now let's talk about South Salem, where you're going to see some of the differences. Now you're going to find a little bit more variety in home, but not just in style, but also in age. Now, a vast majority of the homes were built in the 1900s, more mid-century homes, so you're going to see more bungalow-style homes and ranch-style homes. Now, many of the homes are a little bit more in established neighborhoods with more mature trees, more mature landscaping. So if that's something that you're interested in, then South Salem may be the right fit for you. Now, as far as new construction goes, you will find some pockets in South Salem that also has some new construction homes, new construction communities that are being built right now. Now, if we're talking the median price in the South Salem area, we are also talking $475,000. So you can see there are similarities in pricing between South Salem and West Salem, and you will definitely find homes in the $1 million range. I would argue that you would find you have more pockets, more neighborhoods in South Salem that have more expensive homes. The Alehi Hills area, Corson Mountain, and others. So the key takeaways between West Salem and South Salem is that if you want newer homes with larger lots and scenic views, then you may want to consider West Salem. If you want a little bit more of a historic charm, a little bit more variety, and more mature tree and mature vegetation, then you may want to consider South Salem. Now, the next big difference between West Salem and South Salem that we're going to be discussing are the schools. Now, for my wife and I, this was important to us. Again, when we made the move here, this is something that we looked at. We have 2 young school-age kids, so this was a big factor for us before we chose which neighborhood to move in. Now, I should note that both West Salem and the South Salem schools are both connected to the same school district in the Salem-Keizer School District. Now, if you want more information specifically about each school, I do highly recommend checking out niche.com. You get a little bit more of community feedback, or greatschools.org if you're looking for more of the ratings and test scores. Now, in West Salem, you are a little bit more limited in your school options here, and mainly it's because the geography and location of West Salem is a lot smaller than the southern section of Salem. For instance, we only have 1 high school in West Salem, and that is West Salem High School. Now, it does get good ratings. I hear a lot of good things about this school, and that is good to know since there is the only 1 high school to choose from. Now, as far as middle schools go, there are 2 of them. There's Straub Middle School as well as Walker Middle School, and there are a number of elementary schools in the West Salem area. Now, I'm not going to speak specifically about each school or give you the ratings of each school. That's going to be on you to make and do your own research on those 2 sites that I mentioned, or whatever sites that you like to look at. I do highly recommend before moving to any neighborhood that maybe you talk to the school administrators or talk to people in the neighborhood that send their kids to various schools to get their take on it as well. Now, I will say overall, in general, when speaking about West Salem schools, people are very happy about them. They have some good scores and good ratings. Now let's talk about South Salem, and I kind of already alluded to the biggest difference between the 2 areas is that there's a lot more choice of schools. Not that you get to choose whatever school you go to, but there are more pocket neighborhoods that have more schools in them, so you can determine which neighborhood you buy in based on the school that you want your kid to go to, if that is a big deciding factor for you. So again, the amount of schools and choice that you have there far outweigh the ones that you have in West Salem. There are 2 main high schools. You've got Sprague and you've got South Salem High School. So 2 high schools instead of 1. You've got a number of middle schools and a lot more elementary schools because, again, geographically they are bigger. And as far as schools go, just like West Salem, I'm not going to get into specifics of each one. Again, that's up to you to do your own research. But in general, the South Salem schools tend to be well-liked, well-attended, and have some good scores and good rankings as well. Now let's talk another major difference between West Salem and South Salem, and that is the shopping, dining, and entertainment. Now, there is a big difference here, so you're going to want to stay tuned for this. We're first going to start off in West Salem. Now, when you're living in West Salem, the good news is you don't have to travel over the bridge into the downtown area or other parts of West Salem to get your daily needs, your amenities, restaurants, and some of your shopping done. You have it all right here in the West Salem area. However, these places tend to be a little bit older, not as updated, not as newer, and you don't have as many options as you would in other parts of Salem. West Salem tends to be pretty limited when it comes to your amenities and shopping and your restaurant choices. Many times, my family and I are crossing the bridge into other parts of Salem to do our shopping, to do our dining. In fact, if you want any big box shopping like Target or Walmart or Best Buy or Home Goods or you name it, Fred Meyer, whatever it is, any type of big box shopping retail, you're going to have to leave the West Salem area. However, I will say that over the last few years, I've noticed more newer development occurring in the West Salem area, more restaurants coming into the West Salem area. In fact, they've opened up a 4th food pod location in the West Salem area. If you're not familiar with what food pods are, think of it as kind of like this congregation of food trucks that are not necessarily mobile. They don't come in and out daily. They basically stay there. There's about 10 or 15 food pods offering a variety of food. There's also indoor and outdoor dining hall with a full bar in that checkpoint 221. So that's newer, and we have more contemporary chefs coming into the West Salem, opening up restaurants there. So West Salem is getting better, but it is not anywhere close to what you're going to find in the South Salem area, especially as far as the options and quantity goes. Now, I will say, because you're only about 7 to 10 minutes outside of downtown, where most of your higher end restaurants and most of your variety of food and your amenities and your shopping are going to be, that it's not that bad of a drive when living in the West Salem area. So when you're living in West Salem, it's very focused. You know where you're going. You're not driving all throughout the West Salem area. You're basically going to the area wedged between Wallace and Edgewater. Now let's talk about South Salem, where in contrast to West Salem, in South Salem you have a wide variety of options, a lot of shopping centers, a lot of strip malls, a lot more amenities closer to your residential areas than you do in the West Salem area. You have a lot of big box shopping like Walmart, Costco, Fred Meyer. You'd still have to commute to places like Target or Home Goods or Hobby Lobby or a movie theater. Actually, I take that back. You have Northern Lights movie theater in the South Salem area, so as far as entertainment goes, as far as movie theaters go, you have that right in the South Salem area. But just in general, you have a lot more options to choose from, and within each pocket neighborhood in the South Salem area, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to be close to whatever it is that you need. Now, like West Salem, a lot of the shopping and the amenities are going to be centralized, and that's going to be along Commercial Street in South Salem and Liberty Street in South Salem, a little bit on Sunny Slope, and a little bit on Kubler. Those are the main streets, the main shopping hub. Now again, if you do want more of the fine dining experience or a culinary experience, or your shopping or a little bit more unique shopping, and you want to go into the downtown area, well, depending on where you are in South Salem, it's 5 to 15 minutes and you are in the downtown area for that type of experience. So the main takeaway between West Salem and South Salem is that while West Salem does have the conveniences and the amenities and everything that you would need on your day-to-day life, if you want more of that entertainment value, more options, and more convenience, then South Salem is going to be the better neighborhood for you. The next major difference we're going to talk about is the community and lifestyle and the difference you're going to feel whether you're in West Salem or South Salem. We're first going to talk about West Salem, and if you're looking for that lifestyle where it's a little bit quieter, a little bit away from it all, a little bit of space to breathe, then West Salem, it may be the right spot for you because it is a little bit more secluded. People aren't really going through the West Salem area unless you live here or unless you're traveling on into McMinnville. You're surrounded directly by countryside and farmland and vineyards. We are adjacent to the Willamette Valley wine country, so when you're riding on the roads and driving on the streets, you can just see the farms, you can see the open land, you can see the orchards, you can see the vineyards. So it just has an overall different feel, more of that countryside feel than you are going to experience in the South Salem area. Now, as far as community goes, it does feel like there is a sense of pride when living in West Salem. There's a sense of connection for the people that live in West Salem. There aren't a lot of community gathering spots. As I mentioned, there's Checkpoint 221, which it seems like it gets pretty busy and pretty popular for its residents. A lot of people go there because they do have some live entertainment there, as well as those food pods I mentioned. Also, Courthouse Gym seems to be a gathering spot. There's indoor and outdoor pools. If you've got family and you've got kids, they do have great summer programs. They do a big blow-up slide into their outdoor pool, and it seems like a lot of gatherings happen there as well as some of the local parks in the West Salem area, which I'll get to a little bit later in the next section. So if you are looking for more of that quieter feel and being away from it all, then West Salem may be a good fit for you. Now, compared with South Salem feels a little bit more mix of suburban and urban compared to West Salem. You're definitely a lot closer to the main vibe of the city of Salem. You're closer to entertainment, you're closer to shopping, you're closer to restaurants. It just has a little bit more of that suburban feel than it does when you compare it to the West Salem area. Now, there are parts of South Salem that you can live on the outskirts as well and kind of feel a little bit away from it all. It's just not quite the feeling you have when you're going through the West Salem area. So if you're looking for more of a lifestyle of convenience and being close to the hustle and closer to the vibe of a city lifestyle, then I would say that South Salem is going to be the better fit for you. The next difference between the two neighborhoods that we're going to go over is the outdoor and recreation aspect of each neighborhood. And first, we're going to start off with the West Salem area. Now, when you're living in West Salem, it's a little bit hard to explain unless you actually come here and visit this part of the area, but it almost feels like you're just living, you're not living in the outdoors. It's not like you're camping or in the wildlife necessarily. But again, just driving through the neighborhood, I think because it's more scenic, it just feels like there's a little bit more outdoor feel to the West Salem area. Now, there are a number of parks in the West Salem area. One of the bigger ones is going to be the Wallace Marine Park. That's off of Wallace Road and runs along the Willamette River. Here you're going to find an amazing baseball/softball complex, massive soccer field area, a kids playground, and direct access to the Willamette River. So if you are into the water sports, they have a direct launching ramp from Wallace Marine Park where you can launch your boat, your Sea-Doo, your kayak, and you can just have fun in the river. So there is that element of the outdoor lifestyle when living in West Salem. You have Orchard Heights Park, which is also a nice community park in the middle of West Salem. Again, baseball fields, basketball courts, a nice little walking trail that has a little creek running through it. Small dog park, pickleball courts, and some open space as well. You also have Darrow State Park, which is a little bit more north in the West Salem area. It also runs along the Willamette River. It's a small little hiking area, a small little trail. But you can find these types of trails and little hiking spots all throughout the West Salem area. A lot of little pocket parks, a lot of areas where your neighborhood, just your homes and your neighborhoods just kind of open up into these trailheads and these trail areas. And that's all throughout the West Salem area. And I'll mention Riverfront Park. Not that it's a part of West Salem. It's actually right across West Salem, across the river, across the bridge. But people in West Salem use and utilize Riverfront Park quite often. It's the park that's adjacent to the downtown area. It's got a great carousel, outdoor amphitheater, little walking and biking trails, access to the river as well, a splash pad for the kids. They also have a lot of events in this park, and it connects you to a much larger open space in the Minto Brown Island Park as well. Now compared to South Salem, I'll say that South Salem also has a lot of great park space in the neighborhoods as well. It just has a different vibe. It feels more a little bit like city parks than it does compared to West Salem, where it feels a little bit more natural, a little bit more nature, a little bit more secluded. Where in the parks in South Salem feel a little bit more suburban/urban, but they are great nonetheless. Some of my favorites are Nelson Park, which is actually a nice little hidden gem, especially during the fall. Some beautiful fall foliage over there, where they've got a playground, basketball court, little walking trail. You also have Brian Johnston Park in the South Salem area, which has a big open space and those, again, walking trails, playground area. And one of the more special parks that I would say is the Minto Brown Island Park, which runs along River Road and the Willamette River. Big open space, massive open dog park space, awesome walking trails and bike trails, the playground, little picnic area. Whereas West Salem lacks a little bit more of the organized sports compared to the South Salem area. Also in South Salem, you're going to find more golf courses in the Salem Golf Course. You got Creekside Golf Course, Illahee Hills Golf Course as well. So if you're into golfing and that type of recreation, then the South Salem area is going to be more for you. So when comparing the two, I'd say West Salem has more of a natural feel, more of a natural outdoor space compared to South Salem. However, South Salem has more of the organized sports, organized recreation available to you when comparing the two between the two neighborhoods. So those are the major differences when comparing the two neighborhoods to the more popular neighborhoods in the Salem area. Now I will reveal where my family and I chose. We chose to live in the West Salem area, and this was specifically because we wanted the lifestyle to feel away from it all. We came from a large city. We lived in the buzz and the hype and the vibe of the city life. And again, Salem doesn't have the vibe of a large city, so you can't go wrong if you're looking to escape that large city feel. But we really wanted to escape, and we wanted something really different. And for us, I feel like we can breathe a little bit easier. We love the views, we love the scenery, we love the more of that open, natural feel in the park systems that we have here. And we also love that we're only about 10 minutes out to the downtown area and only 20 minutes to pretty much everything else that we need. We would much rather choose West Salem. Just had a little bit more of appeal for us and our family. Now that's not to say it's the right appeal for you and your family, but after watching this video, if you are trying to choose between these two specific areas of Salem, hopefully you have a better idea. And as I mentioned, I am a local real estate agent. My team is the Real Estate Dads. I'm with eXp Realty. We love helping people move and relocate to the city of Salem and the surrounding areas. So if you're thinking about doing that, make sure you hit us up at the contact information popping up on the screen or in the information below in the description. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want more videos. Comment below. Would like to hear what you think about South Salem and West Salem. And hit the like button so this video gets out to more people like yourselves who are thinking about making that move to the Salem area.